Alrighty, but everybody, quick spoilers for the Surfer. Now, I talked offline a little bit to Greg, and I kind of think I know where his head's at on this movie, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it too. I might forget some things. This is a movie I feel like I need to see again because I need to, after I kind of know where it's going, I need to kind of look for all the details because I think this is a movie you can kind of unravel, not to the degree of a David Lynch movie, but kind of similar, where the first time you watch a David Lynch movie, you you just kind of get caught up in the weirdness, but you don't quite know what it all means in reality, and you have to kind of figure out like what is that supposed to actually be happening in that real world that is being shown in the surreal way. This movie, once again, you've got Nicolas Cage's Surfer getting trapped in this parking lot, getting torn down emotionally and physically, and eventually by the end transforming into the old homeless dude. So here's the thing, right? As it goes on, he loses everything. He loses his shoes, he loses his phone, he loses his, you know, and people start to treat him as if he's not who he is. So you start to wonder, like, is this even happening? Are we now just seeing his like psychosis? Is everyone gaslighting him to make him think he didn't do this? Like for example, he can't get his phone to work. He needs to get this deal made. He doesn't have a charger, so he gets the guy who runs the little roadside food stand to charge his phone for him, but he's got to give his watch to the guy as collateral. So this is because he doesn't have any money. And of course, he goes back and the place is closed. And then he goes back the next day, now even further disheveled. And the guy's like, don't know what you're talking about. And he keeps talking to the homeless dude. And the homeless dude keeps trading with him too. Like, you want these binoculars, you got to give me something. And it's just kind of this weird idea that he is slowly being transformed into the homeless dude. And then the question is he actually the homeless dude all the way along? And he's just been watching people, and he's been imagining what his real life is or what his life used to be. But what he's actually seeing is he's just seeing a fantasy of what his life had been or could be. And it's actually just him in this corner of this, parking lot, just surviving in this disheveled, broken down car. And even to the point where he ends up, Nick Cage is now in the car. It's hard to explain if you don't see it, but I think the theory could be that Nick Cage basically saw his dad commit suicide on the beach when he was a kid. And then he became this the old man. His dog supposedly got killed by the cult like Bay Boys. And his kid got involved with the Bay Boys and either got murdered or committed suicide. Either way, he got basically died because of those Bay Boys. And Nick Cage is just camping there as a homeless person, not Nick Cage, but actually the homeless person who essentially at some point just wants to get revenge. He wants to get revenge on what the Bay Boys did to him, but he's not being seen as serious by anybody in the world. Some version of that. And that we're slowly discovering that as we see the Nick Cage character transform into this old guy. I might not be getting this right at all. It's kind of confusing. I personally I personally like to stick with the actuality of the story being real. In other words, I kind of like the idea better that it's just a heightened reality where Nick Cage kind of gets sucked into this like purgatory like vortex of this parking lot next to the beach, and that it actually is happening to him and that people actually are um really gaslighting the heck out of him. Though now, so here's the evidence I have. It could be gaslighting and actually real, is that there's this point when he's just starting to break down, when he's, starting to need a little bit of help. And I think the Bay Boys have like they've already vandalized his car and written like kook on the side of it or whatever. I think it's not running anymore, but he's still kind of stuck there and he's trying to get help. And there's a woman there who parks and she's taking pictures and stuff. And he asks for her help and she helps him jumpstart his car, which you might ask like, well, if she jumpstarted his car, why didn't he get out of there? We don't know. You have to just go with that. He did decide not to leave. There's a lot of points like that in this movie where reality would be like, why wouldn't you just leave? Um, and she, in return, gets a photo of him because she's trying to taking photos of the locals, you know. And she takes a photo of him against his car. And then way later in the movie, when he's basically, crawling through the desert of his despair and he's barely alive and he's transformed into this, monstrous, barely alive, homeless looking dude that is just like yelling at people and trying to get their attention and no one knows what's going on. He sees her again and he says, show me, show me. And, I met you and do you remember me? And she goes back through her photos, and not only does she remember him, but there is the photo of him there next to his car, looking like the way he did, a businessman, not in his best situation, but he's got his still got his suit on, and he looks like we saw him. So the question becomes, is it all in his head at the end of the movie, or did it actually occur? And did he get majorly gaslit by this weird cult of this beach? Of course, he could be imagining the two interactions with the woman with the camera. So once again, you could argue it either way. I once again like to side on the idea that it really did happen to him. This crazy pseudo-religious surfer gang manoverse male dominated dude bro gang existed and were trying to basically beat down this city guy. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of that. I think it's, once again, it's just a heightened reality that's so weird that it makes it more fun to me to be that than to be like, quote, all in his head and a psychological journey he's taking. Anyway, that's all I got to say for spoilers for The Surfer. Once again, pretty interesting, cool movie. I think overall, a good one. Talk to y'all soon.